How's it going, everyone? It's Javi, Foam Weather Sponge 1000, and today, yes, we're gonna talk about the next potential major snowstorm that could impact many areas in the Midwest. Even the Northeast could get involved with some snow during the middle of April. Might be surprising to a lot of you guys, but there is a possibility. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So to begin, let's take a look at the European model right around the 4 to 5 day mark, right between the 4 to 5 day mark, and you do see that there is a little bit of snow action going on right around Pennsylvania, and we're seeing that snow extend further northward into Michigan as well as Wisconsin, where there is some snow showers going on, and you see that there is a pretty formidable low pressure system in the south, and we do see a pretty noticeable jet stream dip associated with this trough. Now, this trough will originate from the Pacific Northwest, where if we were to move all the way back to right around the 36-hour mark, you see that a low pressure system moves into California, and it brings some snow to the higher elevations of Northern California, extending to Oregon as well, Oregon as well. So make sure to watch out if you're in the higher elevations of Northern California as well as Oregon, where you could see some heavy snow associated with this trough moving through. And along with this trough is going to be a decent amount of cold air, a decently strong northerly flow, which will induce a jet stream dip as this trough moves further eastward. And since the air is already fairly warm throughout the eastern half of the United States, it's going to create an unstable environment where snow might not be the only threat, but we could see a nor'easter develop out of this jet stream dip, where it's going to be more than just a snow event, where we could see heavy rain associated with this storm. We could see strong winds with it, because you see that if we were to continue to move forward, this low pressure system definitely deepens. We begin to see a bow echo associated with this low pressure system, as it has that classic mid-latitude cyclone look, where we typically see rain right along this cold front and a lot of precipitation on the northwestern portion of the low pressure system, and a decently large amount of dry air on the southwestern portion of this storm, where we do see that classic mid-latitude cyclone look develop just off the northeast coast, which is a little bit more rare to see during the month of April, where there isn't as much instability in the atmosphere for many mid-latitude cyclones looking like this to develop. But we are seeing it right around the April timeframe. We are seeing enough cold air to where we're seeing snow right around the higher elevations of the northeast, and you see that the snow even goes as far southeast as Scranton, and you see it comes fairly, I wouldn't say close to the Interstate 95 corridor, but it comes uncomfortably close to Boston, I'd say, to where it might be something to watch, where I'd say, especially for the interior northeast, where we could see potentially a significant snowstorm out of this, depending on where exactly how pronounced that jet stream dip will be come the Tuesday time frame, because not only will that really determine the trajectory of this storm to really determine where the heaviest snow will be, but it'll also determine the strength of this low pressure system, which in return will determine the magnitude of snowfall you receive throughout the northeast and even the Midwest. So definitely something we're going to need to keep in mind. You see that the low pressure system does deepen. We see the millibar pressure drop down to 990s, and we see a lot of cold air behind this low pressure system, where we do see a decently strong northwesterly flow. However, there's still a decent amount of uncertainty with this, because the GFS model isn't necessarily agreeing with how strong this low pressure system will be. While it is agreeing that we'll eventually see snow from this trough moving through the Midwest, where we do see that trough eventually move inward and into the Midwest, where we do see some snow showers throughout the Dakotas, heavy at times as well, and extending the Midwest. You see that the low pressure system deepens very late, to the point where much of the Northeast misses out on the heavier snowfall, while a relatively large area of the interior Northeast is receiving snowfall. It's nowhere near as heavy and nowhere near as major as the low pressure system we're seeing that the European model is forecasting right now. So we're definitely gonna need to determine how significant this jet stream dip will be. That will be huge in really determining the fate of this low pressure system. So we're really gonna need to pay close attention to the initial strength of this low pressure system as it moves into California, because that will determine the northwesterly flow component with along the western side of this low pressure system. That will eventually determine the amount of unstable air there will be for this low pressure system to develop. Now, there is a bias typically with the European model when it comes to low pressures moving up the northeast coast, which is that low pressure systems typically in the European model typically develop much more rapidly than what typically occurs. And so that's a bias we're definitely going to need to pay close attention to, that sometimes the European model develops low pressure systems off the northeast coast too quickly. So that could mean that maybe the GFS model is better suited for this scenario than the European model, but the European model is still an extremely reliable model, and both of these computer models are at least taking some sort of snowstorm throughout the northern Midwest and at least some snow showers to the interior Northeast. So whether the GFS model is correct or the European model is correct, you still want to be aware of the potential for snow showers in the interior Northeast. And I wouldn't even rule out maybe the Interstate 95 corridor cities could get involved with some snowfall depending on how far south this jet stream dips. While it's still, I'd say, very unlikely that like New York City, Boston, Philadelphia will experience any sort of major snowstorm, let alone accumulating snowfall, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we do see at least some snow showers head into next week, where it'll sort of give that late winter vibe for a lot of you guys along these northeast cities. So it's definitely something to be aware of, especially if you want to see the snow. If you don't necessarily want to see the snow, it's definitely at least something to be aware of, because not only the snow will be the issue, of course you need to worry about the cooler temperatures. If you're not into that, of course this low pressure system will bring temperatures well below average for the month of April thanks to this strong northwesterly flow. So you want to be aware of that throughout the Northeast as well. And of course, even if you don't receive snowfall, there could be that threat of heavy rain and strong winds if the low pressure system deepens as anticipated, as what the European model is anticipating at this point. So if we were to continue to move forward, we do see a low pressure system deepen and the winds strengthen. So there could be a flooding threat if this low pressure system does strengthen, like the European model is saying. But again, this forecast is subject to change. We need to pay very close attention to how this jet stream positions itself as this heads eastward, because I'll determine how strong this low pressure system will be. So we need to make sure to pay close attention to that. Taking a look at the temperature anomalies, it really gives a good idea of how much unstable air the European model is forecasting headed into next week. We do see a little trough move through. For the most part, it's going to be much cooler than average, but you see that. Look at the amount of cold air, 20 degrees below average by the time this low pressure system rolls around into the northeast. So there is a high amount of instability, and the sea surface temperatures are warmer than average, so the instability is only going to increase as this cold air interacts with the warmer than average air over the Atlantic Ocean at this time. And you see that we see a little bit of a negative tilt with the temperature anomalies, which represents that there's a high amount of instability, because we do see cooler than average temperatures just to the south of warmer than average temperatures, and that bow echo creates a highly unstable environment for a low pressure system to deepen and strengthen rapidly. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. The GFS model isn't expecting a negative tilt to this magnitude or at all when it comes to the temperature anomaly, so which is the reason why we don't see that low pressure system deepen as rapidly and as strong as what the European model is stating. But there's still that possibility that we could see a major nor'easter for Northeast. So that's something to keep in mind. In terms of the wind, that's another factor we're going to pay close attention to with this nor'easter. So if we were to continue to move forward, you see that the winds do strengthen, where we could see wind gusts close to 20 knots, which is close to equivalent to 30 miles per hour sustained along the coast. So it's definitely something to keep in mind, and maybe coastal flooding could be an issue if this low pressure system deepens enough. We just have to wait and see regarding the how far south that jet stream dip will be. So that's definitely something to keep in mind for over the next 5 days. It's definitely going to be a close forecast, so a decent amount of questions left to be answered. So we're just going to need to wait and see as the low pressure system heads further eastward. In terms of anything else we're paying close attention to over next week, we do have I'd say for most of the United States, temperatures will be cooler than average as a result of this strong northerly flow. That's going to bring temperatures closer back down to earth for a lot of you guys throughout the Northeast and Northern Midwest, because of course today it was very warm, well over the 80-degree range in many areas in the Northeast. So it was very warm today, but temperatures should fall back down to earth into the 50s for the most part. And we do see a little trough move through, but again, there isn't enough instability, I'd say, for any sort of major severe weather to occur associated with this trough. And we do see some rain showers, but nothing major there. The next major concern will be the low pressure moving through, which could bring heavy snow and potentially a major nor'easter just off the northeast coast for next week. So that's gonna be something to keep in mind. Just stay aware, because there's still we still need to fine-tune this forecast before we can make any sort of conclusions. Now, taking a look at the forecasted snowfall from the European model, you see that you're going to see that the European model is expecting quite a major snowstorm for a lot of the interior Northeast. We're seeing many areas in the interior Northeast receive well over 6 inches of snow, especially the higher elevations. We do see this, and you see the snow pretty much misses out entirely on the Interstate 95 corridor, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we do again see maybe some snow showers out of this, even if there is no snowfall accumulation, where we do see the snow come relatively close to Boston, relatively close to New Jersey. So it's something to keep in mind. And looking westward, you see that North Dakota and Minnesota could get involved with over 6 inches of snow, and this extends to Wisconsin and Michigan as well. So make sure to pay very close attention to that. And in terms of what the GFS model is forecasting, it isn't forecasting as much snow. You see that the snow is, while it's still heavy in the interior Northeast, it's primarily restricted just a little bit further northward. It isn't bringing that snow further southward into Pennsylvania, and pretty much in general not bringing it much to the southeast, but there's still a heavy amount of snow throughout the interior Northeast. So that's something to keep in mind head into next week. But in terms of my forecast based on what the European model is stating, keep in mind is definitely subject to change. But you see that as of right now, 6 to 12 inches should be expected for a lot of the interior Northeast, as it's becoming a little bit more likely we'll at least receive some snowfall. Still, again, subject to change. I want to emphasize that because forecasting something 5 days out, there's still a lot of questions, but I'd say for a lot of northern Midwest and potentially North Dakota, you could receive 3 to 6 inches, with potentially more in North Dakota. So make sure to pay close attention to that over the next week. But anyways, guys, I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content, and I hope you guys have a great day.